Hi everyone, so if you like craft distilleries, I've got a good one today. We're going to review Smuggler's Notch Distillery, straight bourbon whiskey, single barrel, aged 10 years. So my work associate Jeff and his wife Diana were in Vermont this past weekend and they visited the Smuggler's Notch Distillery, specifically the tasting room in Manchester, Vermont. They have several tasting rooms all over the state. The headquarters is in Jeffersonville, Vermont. The distillery itself was founded in 2006 by Ron and Jeremy Elliott, and there's an interesting story with the name. Two things. First of all, in 1800, Congress passed an embargo on imports of English goods. So what the British did was they shipped the goods to Canada and then smuggled them down the Smuggler's Notch Pass, per the name. And the same thing happened in Prohibition when alcohol was smuggled down the same pass. So that's where the name comes from. So here's the deal on this beautiful bottle, which I will show on the camera before I crack it open. This is 90 proof. It is 10-year age statement. It is a single barrel, although it also notes small batch on it. So I assume the barrels, there is a small batch of barrels, and then of which that group, this is a single barrel. So the specifics are as follows. This is the distillery, of course, is the Smuggler's Notch. That's where they put their own spin on it. The actual whiskey is sourced, and by the mash bill, I have a good sense of where it may be. It may very well be MGP sourced. We'll get to that in a second. So it is sourced, and then of course Smuggler's Notch puts their own fingerprint on it. So 90 proof. The mash bill is 74% corn, 21% rye, 5% malted barley. I believe that's like the classic sourced MGP. Is one of the more common mash bills that I've seen. Really, really interesting, and it shows this is what a lot of craft distilleries such as this do. They're very transparent, shows all the information on here. This is the most specific age statement I've seen. It is aged 10 years, 1 month, and 21 days. Batch 130, and I mean, you can't get much more specific than that. So I am very curious about this. And as I said, even though it's sourced, they put their own spin on this. They have a bourbon, they make vodka, I believe there's a rum, there's even a bourbon I believe they make with Vermont maple syrup. And of course, to make it really specific to the area, this is proofed down with Vermont water. So let's take a look at the bottle. We're going to crack it open and we're going to see just how good this is. Here we go. Check out the front of this bottle, and here's all the information on the side. And if you want to pause the back to read. Okay, so we have that poured up. That was an excellent cork pop. I really think this is a beautiful bottle. Really, really nice. So, in looking at the color, my first impression was it was light to medium. I actually thought it was a little on the light side, somewhere between light and medium, but a really nice color. Let's give this a nose. Well, that's very interesting. It's a very sweet nose. I'm getting anything from, that is almost like candy. I'm getting like a very sweet nose on this one. I'm telling you, the first thing I think of is like it's a mixture of fruit and candy. Very, very nice. So let's give it a taste. Cheers. Wow, that is good. It's almost a mixture of sweet and spice. I would say the sweet starts at the beginning and it ends with the spice. I'm getting a bunch on the palate. I'm getting mixed. I'm getting almost vanilla. I would say vanilla and caramel. Vanilla, caramel, maybe even a little bit of chocolate. I'm getting fruit. On the second half, I'm actually getting some spice. This is a nice finish for 90 proof. And I'm figuring with 21% rye, that's a fair amount of rye. It's almost a quarter of this mash bill is rye. So definitely, I can see that's where the spice is coming in. The nose is it's like a candy nose, and that's really transitioning to the palate of the first part. And again, it's kind of like the spice comes in at the end. This is very nice. It really, truly is that sweet and spice mixture. Now, I was thinking about this before I reviewed this, and I think about age. So this is a 10-year age statement, but this is in Vermont. So, the summers can certainly be hot, like in most places in the United States, but there's different degrees of hot. The winters are quite cold in Vermont, as they would be in most of New England and the northern part of the United States. So my thinking would be, this is just me, didn't read this anywhere. My thinking would be a 10-year age statement, age 10 years in Vermont. May not necessarily be 10 years, certainly not 10 years in Texas, and maybe not even 10 years in Kentucky. So I would say, because basically what it is in the climate, in the cool weather, certainly the whiskey will contract inside the barrel. In the heat, it expands. That's why in Texas, a lot of times in 2 years, something can age really quickly. So it certainly has, 10 years on it. Maybe in Kentucky, this would be equivalent to 7. So when you see, 10 years, a 10-year Scotch, for instance, in a different barrel would be, not the same thing. So in any event, different climates. I just found that interesting. I was looking at the color, and I kind of find it's, how whiskey ages in different environments and climates. Some can age faster, some, not as fast. But in any event, what I do love here, aside from the taste, is I love the transparency on this bottle with all the information on it. I'd be very curious to try the maple syrup one. I think that sounds like a really good, with some Vermont maple syrup. That sounds fantastic. Let's have one more taste. That's very, very good. This is very good. Jeff and Diana, thank you so much. This is excellent. I really enjoy this. And this drink's, this is a lot of flavor for a 90 proofer. And and what I like about it, it's source whiskey, and they put a really nice imprint, their own fingerprint on this with a great story. This is just fantastic. If I'm ever up there, I'd love to visit this. So if you're in Vermont, I would definitely highly recommend getting to one of their tasting rooms, checking this out. I will definitely be looking more into this myself. Cheers. Take care. Thanks for watching.